Hello everybody, today we are going to talk about another two types of loops, about the while and do while loop. Let's start this topic from the while loop. It looks like that. While, parentheses, in parentheses there is a place for the condition, and after it of course we can set the instruction to repeat. So for example, cout la la la. Okay. And let's create a condition here. So for example, when I is lower than 10, but of course we have to create the integer number before that loop. So for example, I will assign number 0 here. And look, we can't set here our variable inside the loop. We can't increment the variable inside that parentheses. We can't do that here. We have to do that always in the body of our loop. Okay, so we have to create a block of instructions. Sorry, it's a bit different from the while loop, but it works almost the same, right? Let's see. Right now I will just run it, and as you can see, our condition is right now always true because 0 is always lower than 10, right? The I is not changing. If I change the I, for example, I will do something like that, then this thing will be run 10 times, right? So, well, let's maybe send to the output I and do something like that, right? Let's see. As you can see, we have 10 numbers here. Okay, so it's working like the for loop, and now you might be like, so why do I need to know how that guy works here, how that loop is working? Because one person will use the while loop, second person will use the for loop, and you need to understand how they work. You will also have to decide what loop you like more, the for or maybe while loop, okay? And let's train a bit. Let's see how does it work, for example, when we do something like that. Let's go back to that position. And for example, I will increase the variable I here. What's going on? Can I do something like that? Of course. If you don't remember how post incrementation works, please go back to the arithmetic lesson I was explaining there it very clearly. As you can see, we have 10 numbers here, and they are beginning from 1 and it's ending at 10. What if I do something like that? As you can see now, numbers end at 9. And why is it happening? Because as I said, the pre-increment operation works like that. For example, let's assume that we are already at the number 9. So pre-incrementation works like that we have to first increment the I, so it will be 10, and then we have to send it to the output. So it will be like, if 10 is lower than 10, no, that's why 10 is not sent to the output here. But when I do something like that, is I lower, is I when it's 9 lower than 10? Yes. And after checking if that 9 is lower than 10, that 9 is increased by 1. So that's why here we have also 10. Okay? That's how it's working. And look what we can achieve here. Very cool. For example, we could also count to 0. We could do something like that. And what will happen? Let's see. As you can see, we are counting from 9 to 0. When I do it that way, we are counting from 9 to 1. And why is it happening? Let's focus for a second. When condition is true, when it is not equal to 0, so when I is finally 0, that loop will stop executing that instruction here, right? So if We have 10 here right now, so we are just decreasing. We are sending to the output 10, then we are decreasing by 1, so we have 9, and at the end we have something like 1, sending 1 to the output. We are decreasing it, so we have 0, so we are sending that 0 here, right? And then what's happening? We have decreased that with the increment operation, right, by 1, and we have 0 already here, so we can't repeat it again. When I do something like that, when I is 1, then we have to decrease it by 1, so it's 0, and we are checking if condition is true, so 0 is false, so the condition is false, and we won't send 0 to the output. That's how it works. Let's train maybe a bit on assigning values to the arrays. So for example, let's do something like that, and now if I is lower than 10 and I create an array that size is 10, I could do also something like that, constant size of array, and of course I have to add that it's integer, and I will assign here value, for example 10, so it will be easier if we change anything, right? We can now change only here that value, and it will be changing every place in our program. And now let's assign values. So array of I equals, for example, let's just assign to every value of every element of array 10, for example. We can of course do it that way, but we want to do it the harder way right now. But we can of course, for example, multiply it by I in addition. And now let's see what will happen. I will of course increase that I. And let's send to the output what we have to do it that way. Okay. As you can see now, everything works fine. We could also increase the value here. Let's see if it's working the same. As you can see, the output is the same. Because the post incrementation works like that we have to first send to the output. So at the start we have 0, so array of 0, and then we have to increase the I. So I will be increased in the next round of loop, right? Okay, this is the while loop. We have also something what is called do while, and this is very it is a bit different loop from other loops, because look, we can do something like, for example, do while, and I will do send here I. Let's comment that guys here, so they won't disturb us. And right now I is what? 0. So the condition is not true, but let's see if that instruction here will be executed. As you can see, it got executed once. So this loop is not checking the condition at the beginning. It is checking the condition after execution of every instruction between the curly opening bracket and curly closing bracket. In the while and for loop, the condition is checked at the beginning. So when I do something like while I and then cout la, then as you can see, this guy wasn't executed at all. So the condition is checked at the beginning. There's a difference between do while loop and while and for loop, okay? Okay, that's all in this lesson. Thank you.